Okay, Muhammad, good.
Yeah, I will say we go ahead and get started.
Okay, so good day, everybody. Happy Sunday, October 24th. How are you guys doing? Okay, I want to make
Good.
sure I see everybody.
Good.
So my dear senior stars, if you could please turn on your cameras. Youssef, Rashida. Okay, Abdul has turned on his. Umar, let's see. Rashida, do you mind turning on your camera, dear Muhammad? Okay. And so what we're going to do, we're going to get started. First of all, thank you guys so much for showing up on time, okay? Or showing up, being conscious of the time because of the amount of time that we have left. So I just want to do a quick check-in before we get started. And I want to find out how you guys are doing since the last time we saw each other 2 weeks ago. How are you guys doing? If you could just put something in the chat or you could unmute yourself and let me know how you're doing. Okay, Mohammed, Youssef, Umar, Abdul, Rashida, how are you guys doing since our last meeting? Okay,
Good.
I see it's in the chat. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, everybody's doing good. So today what we're going to do is just start off with a little icebreaker. And again, you could put it in the chat. I'll monitor the chat or you could share it out loud, okay? I want you guys to tell me what is the best piece of advice that you've received? Just give me 1 second. So I'm going to leave this up. What is the, okay, who has joined us? Hello, Miss Dr. Demi?
Yeah, I usually give them like just a few seconds to change the name so we know who it is. So if you can please identify yourself, the person who just logged on.
Okay, we have Nafisa joining us. Okay.
Go ahead, Sister Letitia. I will text this person separately.
Sure. So guys, the question that we're going to start off with today during our icebreaker is what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given? And I want you to either type something in the chat and or you could unmute, guys. What I want this to be is like interactive. So I don't want everything to be typing in the chat. I want it to also be interactive where we're actually talking and engaging with each other. So Suleiman has joined us. So if you guys could, who would like to unmute? Who's brave enough to just unmute and share some advice or the best piece of advice that's ever been given? Rashida, would you like to start, dear?
Sure. I don't really know because I don't really keep track of what pieces of advice that I get. So
has there ever been any advice that has helped you out, just overall in general?
for school, I guess, to use Quizlet, I guess. I don't know.
All right, so guys, the advice that I'm talking about, so that's good, Rashida. I'm just talking about overall general advice that someone may have given you. I'll give you an example and then I'll ask Dr. Demi to give an example. And then I want you guys to think about this a little bit because sort of kind of at this point, I want us to try to step back unless it's something we really don't know, right? You guys are at least bare minimum 13, 14 years old. So you have to have been given some type of advice in your life somewhere down the road that has been beneficial to you, okay? So we all have had something that someone has shared with us or given us that we could consider like a jewel. So some of the best advice that I've ever received Someone shared with me that we celebrate closed doors. So think about like, I'll give you some context around my situation. I was applying to a very rigorous PhD program about 2 years ago, actually a little, almost 3 years ago. And I put forth so much effort. So this is about education. So this actually works out. It was actually one of the top PhD programs for what I was going to apply for, counseling psychology, in the United States. So I thought I had everything set up. Have you ever had a situation where you thought you had everything set up? You're like, great, yep, all of my people have sent in the recommendations. I have really good grades. I have really good work experience, or good life experience. One of the top alumni who completed the program has even vouched for me and wrote a recommendation letter on my behalf. I'm like, I think I got this. I think I'm going to get accepted into this program. And then like a smack in the face. Letitia, it was a very competitive pool of people. You haven't even been selected for an interview, right? Because most of the time you apply, it doesn't mean you automatically get accepted. The next step is an interview. And sometimes in some of these programs, it's like 3 or 4 different interviews, and then it's a panel interview, and it's just long and drawn out. I didn't even make it to the step of an interview. And I'm going to tell you, for like one day, I was super sad. I don't stay sad long when things don't work out for me. I was super sad. I was like, oh my goodness, I thought everything worked out. And I went back to my mentor, and I said to him, he was an alumni of the program and a very well-respected psychologist in you guys' area over there in Virginia area. And he says, you know, Letitia, we celebrate closed doors as much as we celebrate open doors. So if a door doesn't open for us, or if the door closes, we celebrate that as much as we celebrate doors that open for us. And as we know, all of us in here are Muslim, right? It sort of goes back to what we are reminded of is that what is meant to, and I know I'm going to probably say it not correctly, but Allah knows best, but what is meant to hit us will never miss us, and what is meant to miss us will never hit us, and that we're patient during difficult situations, and we're grateful, right, during easy situations. I know it's not exact, but you guys get the point that I'm trying to make, right? So that is a piece of advice, because whatever it is you're going to do, the goal is that we always get picked the first try with exactly what we're going to do. But today we're going to talk about being flexible in our thoughts as it relates to our education and as it relates to our plan. It's great. I hear some people, they're super confident. They're like, no, I only have a plan A. I don't have a plan B because I don't intend on not getting what I want. And that is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it is good to be flexible. There's nothing wrong with being confident, but it's also good to be flexible in our thinking. So Dr. Demi, I'm going to pass the mic to you. Can you please share with the group some advice that you've been given with all of your experience? You have a ton of experience, a wealth of knowledge. Is there anything that you could please share with our senior stars?
Absolutely. Thanks for that. MashaAllah. One that sticks out to me, and I try to keep myself grounded in, is don't let good enough get in the way of perfection. So don't let good enough get in the way of perfection. Everyone who knows me well knows that I love to make things perfect, but it can be disabling and it can be a waste of time sometimes. So you don't have to have everything perfect. This came in, it's interesting, your advice you shared stems from your educational path, but that was where it came in for me as well during my dissertation months, where I just wanted to get it perfect to that point where it's like, yes. And my colleagues, it was one of my cohort members that told me, no, it's never going to be perfect. You're going to pick it up 10 years from now and say, oh my goodness, I should have done this. I shouldn't. So just, if it's good enough and you get to the point, you make your point, that's it. Move on to the next phase in life. I'm so glad for that, because otherwise I'd be doing a doctorate for 10 years, 20 years without ever stopping. So don't let good enough get in the way of perfection. But don't
Awesome.
let, your perfection get in the way of good enough. That's,
Good
I had it
enough.
backwards. Yeah.
I love that. I love that advice, right? And it just reminds us that we're humans, right? And it also reminds us that, again, what we want to always think about, guys, and I don't know if this is because I'm a school psychologist by profession, I always think about cognitive flexibility. You got to be flexible in your thinking, right? Most of you guys, the last time we met 2 weeks ago, actually, all of you guys share that you play some form of sport, like either soccer or you're all at least are very active. And as you know, to be athletes, to be active, you have to be flexible. You can't be rigid, right? That rigidity prevents us from moving on and seeing what else and what other options are out there. So I want to sort of kind of move along from this, but I need you guys to share with me maybe some advice that was shared with you. I've never heard it before and it could benefit me. Umar, do you have a piece of advice? It doesn't have to be related to school, because that information that Dr. Charles Barrett shared with me, Letitia, we celebrate closed doors as much as we celebrate open doors. Believe it or not, I've been applying that to every part of my life, not just my career, not just my desire at that time to get into that program, but I've sort of been applying it to other areas of my life, right? And I think about that comment sometimes. So I want you, Umar, to share a piece of advice that you think would be helpful, that we could also benefit from as well.
Um, my parents always tell me to like set my goals higher. Like instead of wanting to be, for example, a basketball player on the team, you know, like instead of working for a company, own the company, like stuff like that.
That is good, right? That's excellent. Looking at yourself is more than just a person who I like that advice, right? Good advice. The basketball players, they make a ton of money, right? LeBron makes a lot of money, but what's the point of making a whole bunch of money when you're not the person setting the rules and you're just the person who, a lot of the athletes, they say that they feel powerless, especially right now because of all the things that are going on. They say that, I don't even feel like my body is my body. I'm like, how could you be worth $200-300 million and you're powerless? Right? Because they're not the owners, right? They have to follow the rules of someone else. So good advice, Umar. Abdul, could you just share just anything with us at all, dear?
When I was taught by my parents and also my teachers was criticism isn't meant to diminish like the effort you put into something, but it's meant to like help you grow and better yourself for something else.
Good. So constructive criticism, we use it as a stepping stone, right, to grow. Good. So Helia, dear, you look like you are just somewhere and out of space. I like your backdrop. So I'm wondering if you could pull some good advice from in the universe that has been given to you. Anything that you could share with us, dear. And you're on mute, Suhelia.
I don't know.
Okay. Muhammad, can you help her out?
One thing that you could say or do is no matter what happens, it was all planned by Allah, so there's no point of getting angry over that one thing or certain thing that happened. And whatever happens to you that's good, it's because of Allah and He's gifted that to you.
Muhammad, thank you so much for that reminder. Thank you for that. And you know what? After that, I think we could move on. So I appreciate that reminder tremendously. So I just want to remind us, dear students, what are senior stars? You guys are students who are taking action and responsibility. And so when you take action and responsibility for your own situation, now you guys have parents. That's the great thing about this group. You all of you guys come from responsible homes. But just to let you know, because of what I do, working with students from all over the United States, I see all kinds of situations. Some of our kids are homeless. Some of them are living in group homes. Some of them just have had some seriously traumatic situations. And so even with those students, I tell them, guys, when you're really little and tiny, right? What your parents does, it affects you. And obviously as you get older too. But there has to come a point in your life where you take responsibility, and it doesn't matter what it does matter, because I don't want to diminish what has happened to them, but it comes to a point in your life where you have to sort of take responsibility and you have to take control and say, this is what I want for my life. Of course, that is done with guidance, because if you've had an all screwed up situation, it's sort of kind of difficult to say, well, I'm going to just take control of my life and I'm going to do this. But we all need guidance and we need support. So you guys actually are ahead of that, right? Because you don't have that situation. From what I hear, from what I've learned from Dr. Demi, and not personally, no one's personal business, but you guys come from pretty responsible households. When I hear you guys speak, you say my parents, my parents. You sound like you come from pretty nice households. So I feel like when you're a student or when you're a child and you come from a very responsible household and you don't have any additional factors other than being a student, if your parents allow you to work just to teach you responsibility or start a side business, those things are all pluses for you. And so you guys are ahead. So please seize this moment in your life where your lives are good. All you have to worry about is your education, playing sports, going home, eating. You don't have to worry about where my meal is going to come from. Are the lights going to be on? Is someone going to knock on my door and take me away because all of these other things are going on? So you guys are in a very good position. So things like, I don't know, we should sort of kind of refrain when someone's asking you a question like that, because you don't have many things unless you're playing a video game right now, texting a friend, watching television, which you shouldn't be doing. If you're doing any of those things and I call on you and you're thrown off guard, if you say, I don't know, unless this is like a super duper tough question, that means you're not paying attention, because you don't have anything that is threatening your immediate safety. You don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. You don't have to worry about any of these things. So try to refrain from a answer like, I don't know. I want you guys to think through. Okay, that's a part of being responsible. It's a part of taking action, and it is a part of being a senior star. So I want us to remind ourselves of the ground rules that we came up with last week and the ground expectations. And these were not all expectations that I came up with. I do not believe in just being a person who expects something solely, especially when I'm in a group. I think it's important that we stick to what we come up with something and we stick to what we say, right? We agree to share knowledge. You guys wanted to learn about college preparedness. We'll talk about that today. Not too late to learn about college. We said that. Learn something new, interact with each other. That's a part of us engaging, me asking you questions, you asking Dr. Demi and I questions, you even posing questions to your peers. You want to be engaged. I can't imagine just sitting here for an hour and doing everything else except for engaging in what we're doing for this 1 hour. Get the most out of the experience, understand the topic, have fun, work together, ask questions, being inquisitive, and also you're here to learn. So we already went over all of this. Most of you guys did a really good job today. And for those of us who were late, we want to try to maybe work on this for next week, okay? But we always want to be respectful and engage in our activities. So what is our objective today? We want to help you guys gain the skills and knowledge that you may need in order to seek education and training. So what I love about this is it's not limited to, and the word education is a broad word. So education is broad in the sense that everything we do, we're gaining some type of knowledge. That's education, right? Even things that are not formal is still a form of education, but we're talking about education and training, formal education, formal training beyond high school, and eventually embark on fulfilling careers. And I'll share my story with you guys a little bit as we go along. So up until this point, dear students, you could even type it in the chat. If you're a little shy and you're like, I don't want to talk out loud, please type it in chat. Do we have any questions up until this point? Anybody? You could raise your hand, you could type it in the chat, anybody. Okay, so we'll keep going. So just a few interesting facts. Students who end their education at high school are more at risk for experiencing poverty and less likely to earn living wages than students who pursue skilled trade or college degrees. So what does that mean? Students who end their education at high school, that means that I'm stopping at high school and that's it, right? Back in the day, a long time ago, you used to be able to get jobs at like the post office and retire from them. You used to be able to even like maybe get some job at some place and just retire right after high school. But our environments have changed significantly. Okay. And so going to college is important, but also picking up a skilled trade, okay, is important too. Now, I don't want you guys to go after we end this and say the lady that Miss Letitia or Miss Ogivier, who's on the call, she's encouraging us to be plumbers or be an electrician or to be a carpenter. That's not what I'm encouraging you to do. But what I am going to tell you guys is that I read a really good article a couple of years ago. It was a while ago, and it was in the New York Times, right? The fancy New York Times newspaper. And it talked about plumbers, a licensed plumber, making more money than a medical doctor. And I was like, it captured my eye. I said, really? This was a while ago, in fact. I don't even think I was a school psychologist. I was like, how? A plumber? But when I read more into the article, it didn't talk about just the plumber who teaches himself plumbing. It's a master plumber or a licensed plumber. In order to be a licensed plumber, you have to have a certain level of training. You have to go through a board of a bunch of tests. You have to get licensed with the state. And once that person becomes licensed, guys, they're able to open up a business and have other people working under them. And I said, wait, a medical doctor makes at least, I'm thinking somewhere around, let's say modestly, $250,000 a year. You mean to tell me a plumber can make more than that? But how the article had broken down, it talked about the amount of money it costs to go to medical school, somewhere sometimes upward to $400,000, and what a person's starting salary is, and what it costs to take up a trade to become a plumber. Right? Maybe to become a plumber, maybe it only costs like $20,000 or $30,000. You're going to get that hands-on experience. You'll take all the tests. You'll keep moving through the ranks. And about time you start making your money, it's leveling. It's going way above what you started paying for college. So what you pay for that trade. So my thinking is, I want you guys to think about your careers. What do I want to do? Yeah. How much does this pay? Because oftentimes, of course, in this world that we're living in, status and letters behind our names is more important than what we earn. Now, a lot of you said last week, though, and I was so happy to hear it. No, my parents want me to earn good money. Like I know tons of people who are lawyers, who have a lot of letters behind their names. But when you sit down and talk to them, they are just stressed out to like the 100th power. They're like, I had so much student loan debt and I'm not even making the money I thought I was going to make. I'm in so much debt. I'm living at home with my mother. I have a roommate. And I'm like, a lawyer? How you have a roommate? You mean like your spouse, your husband? No, I have a roommate because I can't afford to live on my own. So college is great. Right? I have 4 college degrees. If you guys can see behind me, I went to college. That's wonderful. I think it's great. But we're going to talk about later on how I was able to navigate college without a lot of student loan debt. Okay, we'll get to that at some point. Okay, and so I was one of those people, just to let you know, I was 17 years old going to junior college. And I was not prepared to go to junior college. So some of this stuff will help you a lot because I've been through, I didn't take the traditional route to college. So, and Dr. Demi, I want you to also talk about yours because you may have taken the traditional route, right? So we have like polar opposites. So I think that's great, right? That we're cool.
Yeah,
now that I think
absolutely.
about it, wow. So we could really have a nice conversation. So I was 17 years old in junior college, and I think after like 2 semesters or 3 semesters, probably two, I stopped going. I was like, what am I doing? I don't even know. Like all of my friends, they were still finishing up their senior year of high school. And I was like a year earlier than them. And I was like, I just want to have fun. I'm only 17. Why am I doing this? So I just started working, like doing telemarketing and all these little things. And then somewhere around 20 years old, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should go get my real estate. Because all of those jobs, they were not working out, guys. Right. I was going, it was like from 17 to 21. I was like job hopping, right? Trying to figure things out. Right. And then somewhere around 21, I'm like, you know what? I should go and get my real estate license. So I went to New York University. I got my real estate license. I passed the state exam for New York. And then guess what happened, guys? I was like, okay, I got this certificate from New York University, right? Nice university, beautiful name. Everybody knows NYU. And I passed the New York State exam to become a realtor. But when I started calling around the real estate brokers, they were like, oh no, this was like a real full-time gig, but you cannot work somewhere and it's only commission based. And I'm like, I can't, I live on my own. How in the world am I going to pay my bills? So that real estate license, I didn't really do anything with that. I said, I got to start thinking, right? And it was at 21 that I re-enrolled in college at 21, right? Remember, started at 17, stopped after 2 semesters, re-enrolled at 21, had some life experiences for 4 years, working here, working there, going to NYU to get my real estate license, found out you need to sell some stuff before you get a paycheck, could not do it because I was living on my own, right? Had my own apartment. So I'm like, how is that going to work out? Okay. Minimum income standard, if met, draws a very fine line between the financial independence of the working poor and the need to seek out public assistance or suffer consistent and severe housing and food insecurities, guys. This is so real. I know so many people have been affected by this, right? And it's this is a twofold thing. They either went to college and have so much student debt that they're living paycheck to paycheck. I am going to stress this. If we don't finish this whole presentation today, I do not care. I'm going to stress to you guys the importance of not being in debt to the government with these student loans. I know people personally. Just met with an old colleague of mine about 2 weeks ago for lunch, and she looked so downtrodden. She said, get me out of this. We worked at the same school district together. I no longer work there. She's still there. What are you doing now? I heard you started your own business. Okay. Umar, business owner. I like you, Umar. You got the right idea, Umar. If you get a skill, you could turn that skill into a business. She looked so downtrodden. We're both school psychologists. She's been a school psychologist for 12 years. I've only been a school psychologist. January would make my 6th year. The end of this year, December, will actually make 6 years. And I said, what's going on? You look so worn out. You look so, she said, I got these student loans. They're up to here. I can't even pay my bills. Like, and she's married. You know, my husband and I were trying to figure out how to do all of this. Well, guys, a school psychologist, the maximum you'll make, even living in a place like California or New York, after so many years of being a school psychologist, the maximum salary is about maybe $120,000 a year. Okay. But if you have over $150,000 a year, you don't start at 120, you start somewhere around 75, 80. But if you have about 150 of student loans and that interest is compounding interest with student loans, guys, it's compounding interest. It's not it's not like a monthly thing. It's compounding. So today it's $5, tomorrow is $5.05, tomorrow is $5.10. Your interest is tacked on daily. It's compounding. That's what we call compounding interest. You guys are smart with numbers. I'm thinking. And so it compounds. It's not like a 1 month. We're just going to project from, okay, this is what you had on the 1st. And we're going to look at, okay, did you pay anything on the 31st? No. Okay, we're just going to look at that balance on the 31st and say that, hey, this is your interest. Okay. So I know a lot of people, beautiful, beautiful careers, school psychologists, lawyers. I don't know any medical doctors who has told me they're in a lot of debt, but they haven't shared that. Teachers, so many people who are in this debt. So imagine not having the requisite skills like a business skill or an education that you're able to use to get yourself out of the debt, and even more so eventually get yourself out of the poverty. Okay, so this is a real situation. So Dr. Demi, I want you to just chime in a little bit since our paths were a little different. I did not have a traditional route to college. It would have started off traditional, right? 17 and junior college. But if I would have finished, went straight through, but that
Yeah,
was
I'm
not.
curious, did you finish high school early or something?
Yeah, I finished early. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I knew some students that I was in class in my cohort who did that, but they mainly just worked typically to support their family. So as Sister Letitia said, I did have a very traditional start off right after high school. It wasn't even a question. It was like just an understanding in my family that you're going to college. So it was just, what college are you going to, was the conversation I had with my parents. And I applied to a couple of schools. I got into most of them and went off to a state university. I did the 4 years. I was pre-med, but then in the midst of learning different things, I realized I wanted to do more research rather than be a medical doctor. And I went the route of public health. So right after undergrad, once again, I was still following that traditional pathway of going straight to grad school to do a master's degree. I would say, and then, I took a long gap before I did my doctorate, to start a family and everything. I would say that the real life experience is key. I definitely don't think I could have survived because I just didn't have that background I wouldn't know how to navigate necessarily, like, being able to hold down a job and leave on my own. Like, even throughout my undergrad years, I was on campus, and during the breaks I was home. And I think that's a skill. You have to know yourself to know well enough to know if you can survive that. Because once I don't want to say cut the cord from your parents, but once you make that leap into, I'm now living by myself, are you going to be able to pay for your rent? Are you going to be able to feed yourself and things like that? I don't think I was mature enough to do that at that age. And after grad school, though, I did work. That was like my first real job. And it made a difference. I'll tell you that. It made a difference because my starting salary I can't remember exactly, but it was higher than most folks would have had started if they with just an undergraduate degree. And when I was at work, I realized that those who did not have a higher not higher education, but like that graduate level. And this is very much dependent on your field of work, okay? Because a lot of people like me being in public health, a lot of them were already medical doctors. So they just tacked on a public health degree with that. I was basically with a bachelor's degree and I had a graduate degree. But I always knew that a doctorate was what was going to get me to where I wanted to be in terms of being able to run research studies and make decisions and things like that. So that was a motivating factor, because what I realized was those who had just a bachelor's were basically doing the paperwork, and I was able to work more closely with those with a doctorate to actually carry out research in the field and got to travel some more. So that was a huge difference. But I think what Sister Letitia is really trying to hone in on you all is the issue of a living wage. A high school degree in this day and age, I also want to drum that in. A high school degree would not get you to that level. It used to be, but not in today's world. So just keep that in mind. I know folks want to use examples of, what's his name? The founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, went to college and dropped out and he founded Apple. Listen, that's a 1 in a million chance, okay? How many Steve Jobs are out there? So let's be frank with ourselves. Again, I like the idea of the plumber you came up with, the plumber making more than a medical doctor. I'm not surprised by that. Remember, when you delve deep into it, you realize that this plumber was not just a plumber, probably a master plumber, and also owned the business, which means this person is now actually hiring other folks to do the work. He or she is not only the sole person doing the work, but they have all these other people who are working and making them money at the same at the same rate. So think about that. Even if you're even if you're a medical doctor, I still encourage folks to think in terms of the business aspect of it. And I think that's probably a whole other session that we can dedicate to that. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I don't want folks to ever discount or overlook the benefits of a trade school in comparison to college. It just depends on what your interests are and what you want to do with it.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Dr. Demi. So I like that we have two different situations. You had the more traditional route, and I had the more start, stop, yet some work experience, say, oh, so I was one of those people who fell somewhere in here. I mean, the only difference was I didn't have children. So it was just easier to just figure out, how am I going to eat? How am I going to, I didn't have like a family to think about. So the living wage is perhaps better defined as a minimum subsistence wage for persons living in the United States. So guys, when you think about wages, wages are based on your living standards. How do I want to live? I want to live like a modest life. I mean, we're Muslims, we tend to live modest lives. But for the most part, we also tend to live pretty nice lives too, for the most part, right? We usually have a house, at least a car, or at least two cars sometimes in the family, depending if you have children who drive, sometimes three cars. We tend to travel, right? One part of being a Muslim is one day we want to make Hajj, right? So that takes money, it takes expenses. For the young men, when you get married, you have to be able to take care of a family. For the women in the group, the best example for us is our mother, Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her. If it was not for Khadija, Khadija is the one who founded Islam, but not founded Islam. She's the one who helped to fund Islam. And it took money to do that, right? So when you think about, how do I want to live? What is the trajectory of my life? Where do I want to live? All of this comes down to the living wage. Okay, it comes down to what we're earning and what kind of life we want. So students who earn a bachelor's degree and have 3.5 times lower poverty rate than those who earn a high school diploma. Now, Dr. Demi, this information, that this is correct, but we want to also tease through this information because a recent article just talked about how we got to do a whole nother one. How the number one wealth gap in America right now are student loans. We got to just focus a whole topic on student loan debt. Okay, so we're going to go back to that. So when we look at this minimum income, we're thinking about what kind of food we're going to eat. People who tend to not have access to income tend to struggle with food insecurities, and it could be food around them, but the quality of food that they're able to get their hands on. Also, basic needs. Can I meet my basic needs month after month? Which are like, can I keep, this might sound silly, toilet tissue in the house for the whole Can I keep my lights on? Those basic and essential needs. Can I put maybe $100 a month away in a bank account, for a rainy day? Those type of things, are based on our income. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, or comments up until this point? Anybody? Is there anybody who could chime in on what we've talked about so far? Anybody at all before we go on? Okay. So just a few interesting facts. Skilled trades often offer another path with few years required to achieve degrees and often less debt. We talked about that. Many trade paths also offer well-paying jobs, right? So if you're like a contractor, if you're a construction worker, not that I'm saying, guys, that that's what you need to do. You could be the owner of the construction company. If you are an electrician, you're a master electrician, a skilled electrician. and you own a business that does all the electrical work on new build houses. I mean, there's just so much, during COVID, I learned that there's so much money out here. It's unbelievable. And we have to figure out how to get to it. Right. And the traditional route is not always the path of getting in debt to get to it. The route that we want to try to figure out is the route that is less. I want you to think about a boxer. A really good boxer takes less hits. A really good boxer knows how to bob and weave and miss some of those punches, right? Even though I love Muhammad Ali, he used to get a lot of hits. So we're not going to use Muhammad Ali as an example.
Actually, I was going to use him as an example. That was one of his tactics. He wore out his opponent.
He will wear out his opponent, but I'm thinking because he had gotten a lot of blows to his brain.
I mean, they'll all get blows at some point eventually, but that was a big tactic he used. He wore out his opponent, so he had to do less work and became the champ. But yeah, they'll get blows regardless.
Okay, so we'll use Muhammad Ali because he's like my favorite person. So we'll use Muhammad Ali, right? So Muhammad Ali, at the end of fights, right, he would always talk about how pretty he was, because you would never see him with like a lumped up eye or a lumped up head or a bloody nose or anything like that, or you rarely seen him with that. He made sure that he took less blows, right, but still accomplished the task at the end. And to me, the less blows that I want to see you guys take is less debt. We're going to make the punches equivalent to student loan debt. I will talk about this probably for the next 12 sessions or 10 sessions, because I cannot stress enough, guys, the debt is unbelievable. I'm meeting people who have like $175,000 worth of debt, but their starting salary for the field they're in is like 75,000, 60,000. I'm meeting people with $200,000 worth of student loan debt. And I said, well, how much are you making? I'm making $60,000 a year. We have to be smart, please. Okay.
Or even, I can add to that. I have a very good friend of mine. We graduated same time in college. She went off to med school, racked up $100 and something thousand in debt. We're in our 40s now, and she still hasn't done residency. So she has to pay back the debt with all the interest. And she tells me, oh my goodness, Demi, I am in debt for a house, and I don't even have a house over my head.
Right.
So think about that. She can't get a job as a doctor because she hasn't finished her training. She just, for whatever reason, she's not able to complete that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's real. It's real.
And that's why I'll emphasize it. And I don't want you guys to say, does this lady she's coming down with dementia or something? Because they keep saying the same.
Because it's the biggest issue, like you said, it's the biggest issue that's when you look at wage gaps, it's real. It's real. No matter how much you're making, if your debt swallows it up, there's no point. You're just poor. You're just poor. Yeah.
So I just don't want them to think I'm being like over the top by saying it a lot of times, but it's just that I've seen a lot, especially being a person who worked in higher education for 5 years. And I'll give you guys a story about that too. So the National Association of College and Employers estimate that the average starting salary for a college graduate in 2019, which was just right around the corner 2 years ago, was $55,280. Not bad if you don't have a bunch of debt. The average technical and trade. So check this out. The average technical and trade school graduates will make about $49,000, often starting their earnings earlier than a 4-year degree earner, and will likely spend less for their degree or certificate. So they're starting earlier. So even though it looks like, hey, you know what, this is like almost $5,000 less, or it's a little over $5,000 less than what I will be getting as a 4-year degree person. No, they have a head start on you in terms of years, which is how many years head start? They may have, so they've already earned, if you look at that salary, probably at least $200,000 with less debt, meaning starting earlier and also less debt. In contrast, a high school graduate who is in the workforce in Maryland will earn $41,543 a year annually, and those without advanced certifications or degrees are much more likely to be unemployed. because as we know, like I said, back in the days, people used to keep their jobs for 30, 40 years, retire with a pension. Guys, that's not happening anymore. So you have to have a business, you have to have something, even if you are a doctor, a lawyer, I don't know, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. There's always something else you could do on the side to generate additional income. There's always something you could do on the side. You could even contract your services out on the side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we go back to that? I want to contrast this to something real. So with the high school graduate example, and let's think back on when COVID really hit in the early 2020, in the first few months of 2020. Who were the first people to get laid off, lose their jobs? Those line workers, in terms the lower skilled ones anyway, like the baggers in the grocery stores who typically just have a high school education, right? So it may look fun, like, oh, I just finished high school and I'm making money. I'm making my money and stuff. You know how it feels like they can buy the latest sneakers, the shirts, the name brand. Understand that is only for some time. It's not something that's going to be long lasting, because their ability to move up is typically stifled with just a high school degree. And again, like Sister Letitia said, those jobs are disappearing. Those baggers in the grocery store, what does Walmart and Target have us doing now? They're got us scanning our own groceries and making our payments ourselves.
Yep.
So those jobs are slowly disappearing, with so many other things along the way. So that's something to consider. I question that 41,500 number there. I think it's way lower than that, but I'm only going by what the data says. It's probably way lower than that. So that's just something to keep in mind in terms of
that's a good point, because I remember
trajectory.
before,
Yeah.
Dr. Jimmy, about 20 something years ago, remember customer service used to be a big thing? Yeah. But now what's happening is a lot of the customer service is automated, and or they have outsourced the customer service. We ever call the 1-800 number, guys, and the person is there, they've outsourced it to like
India.
Costa Rica, the Philippines, India. So they started to outsource that. And so there are not a lot of call centers and things like that. Before I used to be like, oh, if I need a job, I could just do this. And I learned some valuable skills, though. I could say that I actually learned valuable skills that I actually use in my business practice today, but those jobs are no longer available. And at least you got some training with those jobs where you were able to, transfer those skills to other places. But times have changed drastically, especially with the people being more creative. Now, my favorite topic, again, is that. And so, Dr. Demi, I'm gonna let you take this over a little bit, if you don't mind.
No problem.
And we'll chime in together, because I want to hear your take on this as well.
Right. No, the idea really is just, we would like to, for you all to reduce your burden of debt. There are various ways that you can try to go to college debt free. We've talked about this in other sessions, and inshallah we'll bring cycle them back into here. There are different options. You don't necessarily have to, go off to college and sign on that dotted line and say, I'm going to take X amount of money to pay for college. You can elect to go to a cheaper, and when I say cheap, I don't mean like not low quality, but just a lesser cost in terms of cost college. You can opt to go to a state school rather than a private institution. I did a mix of that. I went to state school for my undergrad. I had zero debt. I didn't take student loans really until like graduate school. I went to Emory University, which is a private institution, and it's very expensive. Yeah, I went to Emory.
Look at you.
Mashallah.
Mashallah.
Which is, it's great, looks great on your CV and stuff. People will take a turnaround when they see that, but it's expensive. And you just have to, is it worth it for you to go there for 4 years? I typically advise, and I don't know if there's a science to this, I advise for undergraduate, unless you're getting a full ride scholarship, just stay with state universities, something where you pay in-state and it's much less costly for you and less burdensome for your family. And then maybe for graduate school, you can now go for the top-notch ones, but also still have a game plan. Have a game plan in terms of how to address it. There are work study setups that you can have with different institutions have
No, you,
different options. So definitely make use of that. And there is I forget what it's called. It's like a fund me. I think only one of you have signed up for it so far, Abdul Salam, where we can help you start. So there's a program where certain universities would give you a scholarship. You can start banking scholarship monies. Now, I know University of Maryland, Baltimore County is one of them, and maybe Loyola in this area, where you can start banking money based on what you're doing right now, based on, you know, pulling up your grades or volunteer opportunities. And those are things that we'll share information about with you. So you can sign up and just have an account. It doesn't hurt. If you use it, great. If you don't use it, it's fine too. But something you can start already at this point to kind of bank up potential college funds for yourself if you happen to go to that university.
awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Demi. Guys, type in the chat if you feel like what we're sharing with you is helpful. Because I see everybody, a lot of cameras off. We literally only have Umar's camera on, Abdul's camera's on, everybody else's camera is off. So guys, type in the chat if you're finding this information helpful. Okay? Other than Umar and Abdul, because they're the only ones who seem like they're here with us. Okay, anybody else? Is this helpful? Or are we just talking? Okay.
It is helpful.
Okay.
Mashallah.
I just want to make sure you guys are not falling asleep on us over here. So, so with me, guys, like I said, I took a more a non-traditional. I started off at a junior college, a 2-year community college, and then I stopped. I think I told you guys that. When I realized, I'm going to tell you at about 2021, I realized, oh, this is not working. I'm going from job to job. It's not making any sense. I'm 21, 9 years, I'm going to be 30. What am I going to do? I got to think. And I had to think quick. So what I just basically did, because again, I was living out on my own, that will not be you guys' situation. I just re-enrolled into the junior college. I re-enrolled and I paid out of pocket little by little. And once I finished at the junior college, I stayed at a state university. I went to the state university and I wanted to become a teacher. But again, that situation came up. Hey, if you become a teacher, you have to take off some time to do an internship. You can't afford to do that. You live on your own. You live by yourself. So I finished my bachelor's degree. I went to become an English teacher. I finished my bachelor's degree in English journalism. I ended up working for an insurance company where I was the person who was responsible for writing the manuals for one of the MetLife insurance company is one of the largest insurance companies in the United States. I was a person who wrote procedures, and I gained valuable skills. And I finished my 4-year degree, and then I said, this is not working out too well either. Yeah, this looks good, but guess what? People are not retiring from this. They were laying off people left and right. Right. And I was like, I need to really go back and really think about what I'm going to do. So I tried to get them to pay for me to go to school and get my master's, but they was like, no, it's not in what we want you to get it in. So we're not going to pay. So when I enrolled in my first master's program, I paid for it because by then I was making a pretty decent salary and I was able to pay for my first graduate class out of pocket because I had student loan debt for my bachelor's degree, not for my associate, a little bit for my associates, but a lot, like a little more for my bachelor's. And so I said, when I get a master's, I do not want to take out any student loans. And alhamdulillah, all praises are truly for the one who provides all of our risks for us. I paid for my first class. I was given advice that someone told me, you're traveling to New York, you live in New Jersey, why don't you apply to the college that you're going to, the university that you're going to, a state university, apply. It doesn't matter if they hire you as a secretary. You don't care about a professional title right now. All you want to do is go to school and get this free tuition, right? And I applied to a job. I applied to a job at the college, at the university. And when I went on the interview, I went there dressed up nicely because I was coming from my nice MetLife insurance job with a nice, suit on, looking sharp and stuff, and a nice purse. And they said, you want to work here? I mean, as a secretary? And I was like, yeah, hire me. Because in my head, I was already, guys, an adult. I was like 30 something. I'm like, I got to get rid of this debt that I have from, the little bit, it wasn't a little bit, but that debt from my undergrad. I don't give a hoot if they hire me as a secretary. I don't have a point to prove anybody. I'm trying to get all the rest of this education for free, right? And so they hired me. I took a big, like a almost $30,000 pay cut, but guess what? I did not care. I didn't care if I was the secretary. Why? Because I had a bigger vision in mind. My vision was, if I work here, I can get my tuition paid for. I could just be on campus. I don't have to travel all over the place to go to school. Yeah, I'm making less money, but it's enough to still pay my bills and do what I have to do. At that time, I was married, so it worked out nicely. But what ended up happening was that experience was the best experience. I was making less money, probably the amount of money I was making in my early 20s when I first started out, but it was the best experience because I was able to work at the college, at the university. I was able to get a master's degree in educational psychology, a professional diploma in school psychology. I was able to become a nationally certified school psychologist. Even with getting all of that, I still stayed there working as a secretary. Because I knew I was moving to Arizona. I'm like, I'm not getting a school psychology position here. I'll wait until I get to Arizona. And it's that experience, guys, that has led me to where I'm at now, where I'm able to, I run a very successful, very, very successful, by the permission of Allah, business from home, of extremely successful business from home, by the permission of Allah, not my own doing. Because if it was my own doing, I would have probably said, oh, I'm going to be called a secretary. I said, I don't care. Call me a secretary, a janitor, whatever. I'm getting this free tuition.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I'm sure you've heard of the janitor, the stories of someone who was a janitor at a school, university, and became got a degree from there. I mean, those are ways to make it too. Work for the school.
Yeah, you work for the school. And I tell people this all the time. Okay, I remember that story. And there was also a Harvard janitor who still is a janitor, but all of his kids went to Harvard for free because when you're an employee of a school, if your parents work at a university or work at a college, you guys get to go to school for free. If you even work at a college, not that I'm saying I'm not pushing you guys to work, but if there's something you say, you know what, I wouldn't mind working. Whenever you work at a college or university, you are able to go to school for free. All you do are pay those fees. So if a class is like $2,000, some of the classes were, well, they're graduate level classes. The classes were like $1,900. I would only pay $300. I didn't have to take out a loan for $300. I just paid for the class. And it also cut down on a lot of traveling debt, traveling all over the place, because I would literally walk out of my building and go to the other buildings to take classes. And so from there, you meet people. Oh, Letitia, you finished your first master's? Yeah. Can you teach a class for us? Yes, I'll teach that class, because now I could pay for some more classes, 5 or 6 other classes, or 7 or 8. And then you start to build a, so what I'm trying to show you guys or tell you guys is there's more than one way to walk through a door.
Yeah.
Wait, is there more than one way to walk through a door?
No.
There's a
saying, there's a Yoruba saying that more than one door opens into the marketplace.
Yes.
And some parents will actually know this. There's more, you can take so many different paths to get there. You just have to be intentional about how you want to get there. Be intentional.
Yeah, so there's not more than one way to walk through a door.
There's more than one door to get into a space, something like that.
There's more than one way to cook chicken. We know you could fry it, you could grill it, right? The point that I'm trying to make, as easy as it sounds, is that there's more than one way that you could do things. And I want you guys to think out of the box, because again, if I was not thinking outside of the box, right? Or if I had that ego, I'm not going to be guys, I would be in so much debt right now. I'm telling you, I would probably be crying, right? And not only that, I was able to fast track a lot of things because I didn't have to have the work. I had debt from undergrad, a little bit, not a little, but I had debt from undergrad, but I was able to fast track 2 master's degrees, and graduate with no debt from there because of working at the university. So that's what I want. You're going to hear me talk about debt a lot, guys, just because I know a lot about this. Real quick story, and then we're going to move on from debt. Because I worked in the College of Education, when I worked at the university as the secretary, right? So I worked as a secretary, and the professors who I worked, they said that I worked with them. I didn't work for them, because they're like, you run our department, right? Because I already came there with a lot of professional skills. So I wasn't like a person who didn't know anything. I was like, no, we're going to bridge the gap between what this department offers their students currently and what we're going to offer them. So I took more on a leadership role, even though I was the secretary. And these were people who went to Harvard, NYU, Columbia. They had all these fancy degrees, but I never felt intimidated, right? And I was just like, okay, but this is what we're going to do to help these students out, because I was a student and I know what it's like to be a student and have to self-support and figure things out on your own. So what I want to give you guys, I would see people had to come through me in order to set up an appointment to see the chairperson. I saw degrees from Duke, and remember, this is a state university. Harvard. They'll say, oh, I went to Harvard, but I got my degree and I tried this and it didn't work out. I want to try to become a teacher. I had a basketball player who played for the New Jersey Nets from Jersey City, the same place I'm from, had a degree from Duke, could not even get into our education program. And I went to a state university, one of the smaller state universities in New Jersey. He could not get into our education program because his grades were so low in certain areas that he would have had to retake those classes in order to, at a Duke University degree, in order to even meet the basic requirements to start the program. So another reminder, keep your grades up. Don't play around when you are going to college, because those classes cost money. And if you fail those classes, you have to retake them in order for them to transfer over anywhere. So that's it. So that's also money.
Right. I was gonna show a very short video about tying your interest to your career, but to your career goals and things like that. But first, let's take a very quick break.
Yes, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent.
No,
right?
no problem. We're definitely not gonna finish the slides today, and that's okay, like Sister Letitia said. So I'm gonna send you guys, no, don't play that yet.
Okay.
I just sent you guys a form. Can you go ahead and fill it out? And I need for everyone to please complete this. It's just asking you for your contact information, and it's fine with your parents. We checked in with them and they're okay with it. So we want your name, your full name, your primary email address, your phone number. We're gonna create another group chat, right, Sister Letitia, where we are directly communicating with you all. Let us know if you're homeschooled or in traditional school, your current grade. Some of you might be straddling grades, so click on all that apply, and your date of birth. Who's that?
Nafisa. Nafisa, can you turn on your camera?
So go ahead and fill that out for me, please. And then you'll get to watch this really interesting video. It's good to see your face though, Nafisa.
Yes,
Mashallah.
Nafisa. And Dr. Demi, you'll share the video, okay?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay. So guys, does everyone have what Dr. Demi is asking you to complete? If you do not, please type it in the chat so she can make sure you have it. But it's already in the chat, so all you need to do.
So just click on it. It's a link to some questions.
Dr. Demi, I'm just going to get some water, okay? I'll be right back.
Go ahead. All right, we've got 1 in. Come on, guys, let's go. 2. I'm expecting 10, right? No, 9. I'm expecting 9 to come in. I'll be right back. Need to get my phone. No problem. You don't know your phone number, Nafisa? Come on, lady. All right, I've got 3 in. Good job. Yusuf, your thing is still not fixed, huh? Your camera.
Yeah.
Oh.
I turned it on just so they could always
I
see
know.
that
So we know you're here.
I'm at least attempting to put my camera on.
Mashallah. We appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. All right, we've got 5 responses in. This is a nice way to monitor it, so make sure everyone gets it done. It's important.
Wait a minute. I think I can fix it.
That would be lovely if we can fix it. Oh, look at that. All you had to do was try. Good job, Yusuf. All right, 2 more folks holding us up. Let's go, let's go. One more. Let's go, guys. Keep it up. Thank you. All right, well, I will wait for that last one to come in. This is really just a video. And we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about choosing a career based on your interest and all this. Go ahead.
Can we
Go
just
ahead.
make sure everyone's awake? I saw Suhaila say I was about to fall asleep. Yusuf said same. And then Nafisa said, I know. And so you're probably about to fall asleep because you got your camera off and you're very relaxed. So you probably, if you turn your camera on, guys, you will not fall asleep.
And
Okay.
stay engaged.
And stay engaged, okay?
Didn't even see that. Okay. Hang on, let me do something real quick. All right, cool. All right, so I'm going to play this. And, you know, there are different tests you can take. We'll talk some more about those when we get to them. But this is just to drive home that once again. Hang on. Yeah, I'm not sharing it yet. I'm about to share it.
When you were a kid, you had dreams. Maybe you wanted to be an astronaut, or a lion tamer, or an inventor of something awesome. But as you get older, your interests and passions change, and you discover other things that you love to do. But you have no clue how those interests or passions could actually translate into a real career. On top of that, there's a choir of outside voices that all want to tell you who you are and what you should be. And those voices are hard to ignore, especially if you don't really know yourself. And the tragic thing is, if you don't know yourself or what the best career options are for you, the chances of you ending up here are pretty high. But what if there was a way that you could know yourself and discover jobs that people like you tend to thrive in? Well, the Strong Interest Inventory is here to help. The Strong is a career assessment that helps you discover who you are and explore career paths that are the best fit for you. And this knowledge is powerful because if you know what you like and what you're like and where the people who are most like you thrive, then you can be free to pick a career that you're gonna love. Think about it. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours of your life working. So why not enjoy it?
Yeah. So you guys remember the Myers-Briggs inventory that we took a while ago? I think we took like a miniature version of it. But we can definitely look into that at some point, right, Sister Letitia?
Yes.
There was something else I wanted to share with you all, and then we will wrap up. Hang on. Oh, no, not share. Present. So many of you indicated, a good number anyway, indicated that you were interested in the medical field. And I just want you all to think outside the box. It's not just, it's not just an MD in terms of medicine. If it's something in the medical field you're interested in, that there are medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, and things like that. And I know that for a lot of you, and even for a lot of parents, some of the driving factors, at the end of the day, they want we all want our kids to thrive. We all want our kids to be able to make good money, a good living wage, in the future. So money and salary aspirations are real. And those are some of the driving factors. So I saw this on Instagram. Yes, I'm on Instagram. And I thought it was interesting. Wanted to share this with you all. Hang on. Oops. It doesn't come up for me to play. Maybe I have to stop. Oh, wow, it disappeared. Okay. Hold on. No, yeah, it's looking like a picture, but it wasn't a picture. Hang on. I do have it here. When all fails, huh? Hang on. I have it over here somewhere. Texted it to myself. Okay. Now she doesn't want to. Let me minimize this and put her right in here. Yep, you can see that. All right, we'll play it this way. Okay, so did you guys get that? You have to read it. I'm gonna play it one more time.
Great jobs in healthcare. That's not a doctor or nurse. Physician assistant. That's a really good salary.
That was, I learned that when I was in grad school. I was like, if I had known that, I would have considered it. And they actually get treated almost like a physician, like a medical doctor in some states.
Wow.
Okay.
A biomed.
Right, biomedical engineer, this is mixing medicine with, engineering. If that's your passion, you can definitely put those together and look at the salary. So
that's probably the starting salary.
Yeah, these are starting, I believe.
Physical therapist, and you could become your own, the physical therapist and occupational therapist, you could eventually work for yourself. So that salary easily double. I know an occupational therapist that I work with, Dr. Demi, at one of the schools that I contract my services to. She actually has a contract with 15 of those schools. So they're charter schools. Yeah. She just hired assistants up under her. So her contract is like,
mashallah. Exactly. So don't get stuck in just, this one way of thinking.
You only need a master's for those two. A physical therapist is a master's, an occupational therapist, you can
is a doctorate. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, or a master's in the school level for an occupational therapist.
Radiation therapist, you're looking at films, you learn how to look at the scan, the x-rays. And speech pathologist, wow. So dental hygienists got me.
I didn't know that they make that much money.
They do make a lot. And they're not even really necessarily required to go to school for a long time, as long as a dentist, for example, would. And a dental office cannot operate without them. Because who cleans your teeth when you go to the dentist? Not the dentist himself or herself. It's the hygienist that does that. No, I know about chiropractor. Which other ones? So yeah, I just thought it was, I found that interesting when I saw it. I was like, whoa, this is an interesting, very good information. So always, keep your options open as you're exploring your interest, and really just try to tie it in. I do have a take-home assignment. We have a take-home assignment for you guys, and we will share that. So now that I have your phone numbers and email, we will go ahead and share that with you. Let me just scroll through.
Dr. Jimmy, just to let the students, the senior stars know, next time we meet, guys, it would just be so nice if you could keep your cameras on. If you have to step away and use the restroom, I respect that completely. But only a few of us had our cameras on consistently. Only one, really, Umar, throughout the whole entire time. And then Abdul had his camera on, and then, but guys, try to have your cameras on, okay? Because if you're here for this, then there's no reasons why your camera should be off, again, unless you need to step away, use the restroom, or unless you're eating something and you don't want to be eating in the camera. Like, I understand if you need a 5 minute just to eat while you listen, but let's try to have our cameras on, dear senior stars, okay? That's just going forward. If you guys could do that, that'll be awesome. Okay.
Right, thank you. We appreciate that. So really quickly, I think, Nafisa, you're in 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Anyone else in 8th grade? I think everyone else is in like 9th grade. Okay. So for next week, inshallah, I would like you, Nafisa, this is for the middle school, to fill out your interest inventory. So something to really think about, what you're interested in, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, activities that you plan to be. I think this is, hang on. Activity, oh, sorry, no, this is you. You're doing the web. This is me. For the middle schoolers, which is basically Nafisa. And I'll share this, it's going to be in a PDF form. I'll share this with you all once we have that group put together, and also share it on email. And then for the high schoolers, you're going to do your interest inventory, because you want to start thinking about activities that you're getting yourself involved in high school. Remember, you're at the point where you need to start thinking about career choices, college choices. You do have to get involved in various activities that's going to help boost your applications, especially for college application. So we want you to start thinking about those now, not right at the time when you're applying. So again, we'll share those with you. So our next meeting, inshallah, is November 14th, Sunday at 3:30. Please do come in on time as usual. We really do appreciate it when everyone comes and joins on time. Thank you once again to all those who had their cameras on. We would love to see all your beautiful faces.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It makes it more engaging. And that's pretty much all we have for today. Mashallah. So inshallah, we'll see you all same time, November 14th, inshallah. In between, we'll be chatting on text messages and things. Okay.
Okay. Salaam alaikum, guys.
Alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum.
Bye, Rashina.